Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Penny Pincher Cliches. I have for you today the Mosin-Nagant. Now, the reason I say Penny Pincher Cliches is it really is the cliche penny pincher firearm. You know, they're super cheap. Most of these are still under $200, and they end up in just about everybody's hands. I think honestly they're great rifles. Most everybody does who's shot them. I don't believe some of the hype about them all being basically a sniper rifle or anything like that. But I really do enjoy having a Mosin-Nagant. So this one is, like most that you'll run into, an M91 30 made in the Soviet Union. This one in particular, as you'll see later, it was made at the Tula Arsenal in 1939, so 1 year before World War II. So this one's still pretty decent quality compared to some of the later ones where you'll see a lot of really rough cutting on the receiver, barrels, the bolt, everything. Really, this one is a lot nicer than most of the ones I've run into. Not sure if I was lucky or what. I went through a few places. I ended up buying this one at a Big 5 Sports in Carlsbad, New Mexico a couple years ago. Since then, I've done some work on the stock, refinished it. I took off that red lacquer and replaced it with a nice clear lacquer. I think it makes for a more attractive rifle, at least to me. It does have a Navy-style sling rather than the Army green sling. I actually ordered that on eBay. I wanted a different colored sling just because I didn't think the green worked very well with the rifle to my taste, even though green is really my favorite color. So why don't we get the camera around, take a closer look at this rifle, and we'll go over some of the reasons why it might be a good choice for you. So here we are with the Mosin-Nagant on my cleaning pad. I think I stated in a video before, this is not my sleeping sheet. I have slept with it before as I had it available. But I got it when a guy wrapped the stock with it. So no, this is not my sheet. My sheets look like that. So yeah, there you go. Doing this all in my bed. So, first thing I want to go over is operation of the rifle. We want to make sure it's clear. So, bolt goes up and back. Most bolt actions, if not all bolt actions except for straight pulls, will operate in this fashion where it goes up 90 degrees and back. You'll see on Crags that the bolt does move 90 degrees, but it moves 90 degrees from an angle down here to up here. So it's 45 degrees off of the axis here. It actually makes for a much better bolt design. I personally believe most countries should have gone with something like that, but in most cases they just ended up bending the bolt handle. So removal of the bolt is easy. You just pull the trigger, bolt comes right out. And here's your bolt. Not much of the service needs to be done to this. You can take it apart. It's fairly easy. All you got to do is turn this and your bolt head should come right off. This comes off, and this part is actually used as a disassembly tool for the firing pin. Now I'm not going to remove the firing pin just because I don't want to deal with that mess, because it is kind of a pain in the butt to get the spring for the striker to actually compress and everything, and I'm not going to be able to do that on a bed because the bed will just compress. So to put it back together, twist it a little bit. There we go. Get it back together. You put this on. It's pretty much keyed, so the only way you can get it on is to align with this back here, right there. And then you get your bolt head, and this has nice little guide rod or rib right here. This goes in and locks up. See that little piece? So what you do is take that, line it up, and then get the bolt. Come on. I misaligned it. Okay, well I'm going to have to get this back together and explain what mistake I made. Okay, there we go. I wasn't paying attention to what I did. I didn't push this part in all the way. It's been a while since I've disassembled this. So pull it out a little bit and then push it back in. What you want is this piece right here to line up. Then you can take your bolt and put it back in the cocked position, because that's the only way it'll go back in the rifle. Okay. Now that the bolt's out, we can actually take the magazine out. Now this is just the magazine body. You can take out the follower and spring fairly easily. There's a spring right here. All you do is press it in, and then you compress the spring. It's got this little mouth here, and that locks into a rod right in there. So we can just put that back in and snaps in place. Super simple. That's really all the assembly you need to do. Trigger's pretty simple as well, so that's not really something I'm going to get into. But we can look at the sights. Now you'll notice that these sights are basically the same as, you know, the K31 or really any other European gun. My Krag's the same way. Not my US Krag though. My Norwegian Krag is essentially the same as this style. It's a graduated rear sight. That's what it does. It has this slope, makes it a lot easier to figure out your ranges. Now, front sight is pretty simple, hooded and a post. You see the post in there? And it's nothing really special. It's not really adjustable too much. You can adjust it left and right, but I wouldn't really suggest doing it, because the last time I did it, it got really loose. I don't know if that's systemic of all of the Mosin-Nagants, but this one got loose, and I had to take it to a gunsmith, and he was able to get it so it would stay in place. Cleaning rod right here, it would unscrew. I have it in there pretty tight because it has a tendency otherwise to unscrew itself and then start working its way out. So reassembly is fairly simple. In fact, it's just as simple as the K31. Take the bolt, push it in, and close it. Also, the rifle does shoot surplus ammunition. This is surplus ammunition from the former Soviet Union. This is a 7.62x5.4. All of these Mosin-Nagants shoot 7.62x5.4. There are some very rare ones that were made, or they were modified in the US in the early 1900s that shoot 30-06, but pretty much every one of the ones that you run into is going to shoot this round. So you can typically find a box of 440 of the surplus ammunition. It used to be for about $100. I'm seeing them now for $150. So ammunition is available. It's still really cheap. This is good ammunition too. It's not the most accurate, but I consider it extremely reliable. So if you can get your hands on it, it makes for great target loads to get yourself used to your new rifle. Another thing is the tool ammo, which is also steel cased, steel jacketed, but lead core ammunition. You can get a box of that for, I've seen it as low as $10. Sometimes I'll see it for $13, $14, depending on where you buy it. With my traveling around the country, it's usually different prices in different areas. Oddly enough, in the Pacific Northwest, most of that ammunition is cheaper. Not sure why. So, as you saw, the Mosin-Nagant is a really simple rifle. It's more simple than most rifles you'll run into from the same time period. I think personally it's one of the more, not elegant designs, but functional, yet with a really nice form factor. I think it is a nice mixture of form and function. I think these are really pretty rifles. They're very attractive, you know, with this pot belly and everything. I think it's really something that would be good in anybody's collection, no matter what the price would be. But the very fact that they're penny pinchers, and even the ammunition, as I showed you, is really inexpensive. You know, there's no way that a person who's interested in guns would likely pass up on one of these. They're so available. The ammunition's so available. They're fairly accurate. And they're extremely reliable and durable. Like, there's plenty of videos out there of people doing torture tests on these things. So that's why I'm not going into like huge detail about this, because there's plenty of videos out there that you guys can watch. And I suggest you do that. I really encourage, you know, inter-channel communications and sharing. I think that's It's a good way to do things. So yeah, like I said, I bought this one for about $150 at Big Five in Carlsbad, New Mexico a few years ago. You can still find some of these for $189. Some really nice ones out there are Finnish Mosin-Nagants. I believe Hickok 45, in fact, made a recent video about the Finnish Mosin-Nagant, so maybe you guys should go check out his video if you're interested in something like that. Those usually, they bring in a bit more money. I've seen them between $300 and $450. Personally, I would suggest buying one of those. They're, for all I've heard of them, much better rifles than the Russian Mosins. But, you know, if you can afford to get one of these and you find it at a decent price, which most of them will be, go for it. They're great rifles, and they're enough that you can beat them up and take them outside, and you're not going to worry too much about marring up the finish or anything, because for a while this was my trail rifle. This is what I'd take with me when I was out in the woods all alone, because I wasn't afraid of tearing it up and beating it up. So yeah, just remember guys, a good gun doesn't have to cost a pretty penny.